All right, let's do this. Let's pod it up. Yes. Okay. Last pod, I was listening to it, and and there's a section in the like whatever welcomes where Kelly is like, "Okay, great. We're only 57 minutes in or whatever," and I looked down at the runtime and it was like 15 minutes. And I was like, she cut out 45 minutes?
Yeah.
In our defense, there was like at least 20 minutes before we even said hello, listeners, or whatever.
That's true.
Like we were just talking.
But it was over an hour before we got to...
Yeah, so my New Year's resolution is not to cause chaos and interrupt everybody.
That's why you're here.
You're going big on that New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, enough reminiscing about other podcasts. Let's make some new magic. With me, attentive, considerate, yielding time to my partners.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. Welcome back, listeners. You've made it. It's part 3 of whatever we're doing right now. The Japanese tattoos. This is Arts and Crimes, and I'm your host, Kelly.
And I'm Brandon.
And I'm your temporary guest co-host, Josh.
Ah, the throwback in and of itself. Well, we're like right on point today. Super, just like ready to go, which is good because I have over 4 pages of notes, which we've found is the sweet spot is four pages. So
good.
So yeah, I am excited because we finally get to the Yakuza stuff today, which was the whole point of even starting this whole endeavor. And in a very Kelly fashion, I went way too far. You're doing too much. That's
just far enough.
Yeah, that's my life. But anyways, before we get started, how's you guys' week?
All right.
Brandon has like the funniest grin. He's so excited.
Well, it's because we talked about being more on point and not going off, and I feel like I could totally go off on my on my week. In fact, I prepared a few things in case you want to cut some, because I found that I do get cut quite a bit on these.
I'm sorry.
So earlier
Okay, here it is. I'm saying it now. I'm not going to cut anything for this whole pod.
Oh no.
Everything. No cutting. No editing. It's just all here.
And that'll make the edit so much easier.
Yeah, I was going to say, people will really appreciate what you do. They're like, this is the most... Like, these guys need Adderall so badly.
Yeah, so here we go.
All right. Okay, hopefully that was an empty threat. Because I'm not going to give them in any certain order, but so earlier today I asked like if the razor blades conversation had gotten cut or not, because I didn't catch it in the last pod, but maybe it was 2 pods ago, right? So I wanted to share that every time I shave... To
specify, he's talking about shaving razor blades. Because razor blades have come up multiple times in this pod series because they used them to make tattoos.
Right. Well, dear listeners, I'm talking about when I was talking about razor blades.
Is that what we're calling the listeners now? Dear listeners.
My sweet, sweet listeners. They are beautiful, wonderful, precious listeners.
Yeah. I want them to feel welcomed and engaged.
Good.
All right. Please cut that. So, anyway.
I won't.
She gave her word.
So,
as a podcaster.
So we had the conversation where we did the math to figure out, Josh figured out the money to spend for me to have a lifetime worth of razor blades.
I wonder why someone would cut out us doing math about razor blades.
Anyway, every time I shave now, I am reminded of the insult that Josh thinks I only have 50 years left. So there you go.
Maybe you only have 50 years of shaving left, and that's what he meant.
I was implying that as you get older, that it's going to get scragglier and scragglier. You're going to be shaving like once a month by the end of your life.
Okay.
So what I really implied was that you've got at least 70 years left.
Good. 70 sounds about right.
Or more.
No.
If you put your brain in a cyborg and launch it into space, you could live longer.
Then you definitely know
I
when
don't
to
need
shave,
razor
though.
blades.
Yeah, you don't need razor blades for that.
Okay.
That's what he was keeping in account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we know that's your lifelong dream.
Yeah.
It-
Hold on.
I mean-
You were offended that I said you're going to live into your 90s?
Yes.
The look.
Listen, when I was in 4th grade, I set the goal of living to be over 100. Didn't want to have an uneven number for age, so 102. Since then, I feel like I was. That's the goal. Stretch
really
goal.
committed to it.
120.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. With modern
I mean,
medicine.
it's been at least like 20 years of me saying 120 is the stretch goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, 120 is like almost literally the scientific limit for how old a person can be.
And I'm going to do it.
Well, I won't be there for that.
Yeah. You're going to be doing that last stretch alone.
On your own.
Man, you
It'll
guys.
be just Brandon here
why?
doing the pod.
Why say something like that?
Because I know I'm not going to live to 120.
All right.
I feel like I could, but not because I chose to, but because that's just how things are for me. I'll either like go out diving with sharks or something insane that I'm like, I decided to do this. There's really great clay at the bottom of the ocean.
Is there really?
And there might be. I don't know. Probably not.
I don't know. Maybe I'm unhealthy in my outlook, but I feel like why not just, like if I die before then, bummer. But if I don't die, why set my sights lower?
So I have made a deal with Michaela that when I turn 85, I'm going to become a smoke jumper. You know what that is?
Aren't they? They're wildlife firefighters, right?
Correct. Yes. So even if I'm in a wheelchair, they're gonna wheel me onto the thing and strap a parachute onto me. I'm gonna go, let me at that fire, boys. And they'll push me out the thing, and I'll plummet into the fire. And everyone at my funeral, they'll have to say I died heroically as a firefighter. Even into his 80s, he was still fighting those fires. And they'll be like, did he fight them as a 60-year-old? No.
Never.
His first ever fire got him.
Yeah, I feel like you both have really great plans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my actual week check-in, and this is the one that's maybe going to go a little bit longer than it should. Are you really not going to cut?
We'll see. It
She'll-
depends.
she's gonna-
You
She's
guys,
gonna cut.
You
Okay.
guys might guarantee that I have to because
Yeah.
inevitably one of you or both of you make inappropriate jokes.
That's true.
All we have to do is start
That-
making
yeah.
super inappropriate jokes.
Yeah.
Hey guys, so you know that
Stop it! Don't make it a goal. You already said at the beginning you were going to be
Yeah.
on point.
You
Dang it.
can't be chaotic, Josh.
All right, fine.
But I made no such promise. So, okay. My actual week check-in, I came up with a topic almost immediately after the pod. So I've been sitting on this
You've
for
been sitting
2
on this
weeks.
for- yeah.
so it's a polished diamond.
Yeah, not entirely, but it's art and crime related. Yeah. So
That's the theme of this pod.
no.
This is the
So
week check-in.
So I am pretty constantly looking for new music and stuff, and one of my favorite genres is heavy rock, heavy metal. I don't often say that I am a heavy metal enthusiast necessarily because I don't love the guttural screaming that happens
Like
in a lot.
death metal.
Yeah, So anyway, YouTube is actually a pretty great place to come across new music. Scrolling through shorts, I'll get something or whatever. Here's a little bit of a drummer, and I'll be like, "Oh, that was really good. Let's go listen to his band." And then it almost always these guitarists and these drummers that I just really love gravitate to these singers that are just and I'm just like, "Oh my gosh!" So.
It's a struggle.
It is, right? So recently came across a band called Scars, Skars.
Okay.
And
So you know they're metal.
yeah. Well,
They spell
and-
with a K.
Yes, they do
so-
spell with a K, so that implies metal and probably a little emo. right?
Which I love, obviously.
Right.
If they ended it with a Z, they would be new metal.
Yeah.
Yes, but they didn't.
Yeah.
No.
No. So they have really great riffs, and it like sucked me in, and you know, like it's good when the riff is hitting and you just feel like yeah, you know, you feel that feeling, right? But so I started listening to some of their stuff. They're on all of the streamy platforms or whatever, and their lyrics are just awful. They're just like an idiot wrote them.
Oh no.
You know, but so I'm listening to them and like, yeah, this is so great. And then by the end of the song, I'm like, I'm not sure about this. But then the next song would come on, really strong intro, really heavy guitars, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll stick this one through. And by the time I get to the end, I'm like, man, who is writing these lyrics?
AI.
Yeah. It's an AI band. I'm pretty convinced.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a crime.
I know. I almost sent it to you because like some of this emo stuff was in there, and I was like, Kelly would appreciate this, but I didn't send it to you, and more happened, and then they had an acoustic version of a song that came out, so it was just like lyrics front and center.
Oh no.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. And Ember was in the car with me, and we were just laughing at all these lyrics. And another day went by, and I was just like, these guys are off. What is wrong with them? Because while...
They got no soul.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
They, like... And so I started looking, like, are these guys AI? And it's funny how hard it was to find confirmation, and really there's not like a hard, yes, they are. Mm-hmm. But, like, they are.
They're definitely AI. Oh, no.
And so, anyway...
What a disappointment.
So now I'm at this point in my life where I'm just like, man, that hits so good. I want to listen to it, but man, it's soulless. Maybe I shouldn't.
Oh no, that's too bad.
So I need a real person to like come through and do covers of Scar songs with new, better lyrics, or I don't know. But like, it's weird that the lyrics stand out. Like that's what got me. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I knew it was AI. It was these lyrics, right? But there's other bands that have lyrics that you don't understand or that seem totally whack. Like, go listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I don't understand half of what's going on in those songs.
But you feel.
But I never doubted it was written by a human.
Yeah.
Well, because they didn't have robots in the 80s.
Well, yeah. But it was never like, man, this stuff is so hard to understand. The lyrics are going all over the place. It has no soul.
Like it was, it could be confusing, but still had soul.
Yeah. Like somehow it's obvious that a human was involved in like Red Hot Chili Peppers, or like sometimes listening to Sleep Token, and they are saying things that I don't necessarily understand, like the connections between the different lines.
I love their lyrics.
Oh, they're great, man. Like,
but it's not always comprehensible.
Yeah. I don't always know where they're going, and if I sat down and like, I'll come up with an interpretation of what they're trying to say, but it's not obvious. It's not clear at first glance. You don't know what's going on necessarily, or completely, but it's still soulful. It's still human, and I'm sorry, Scars, but you're not soulful. You're not human.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but thank you for bringing that to my attention without sending me their songs.
Oh,
to be disappointed in.
Man.
Yeah.
I would have been embarrassed if I had sent it to you and then later had to be like, oh, never mind, Kelly.
They're AI.
You did your full due diligence research before sharing.
Yep.
Yeah. That's very courteous.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I appreciate it too.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do much with AI this week, so that's good for me. The last few weeks, I have just been doing work, getting into school. It's already midterms, which is insane to me. Also, in the last 3 weeks, I've only cried once. I feel like I'm doing really well this year.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, the thing that was like on my mind was yesterday. I was working on recording a demo because I am going to be gone for quite a while. I have to create all my subplans, and that is a task. It is hard to do. So I've already started like getting everything updated on Canvas. I have announcements for my students that I have like staggered so they'll publish as I'm gone so that they're getting those. I already have all of my accesses like approved so that I can still get on Canvas and I can still update grades and I can still update announcements and all that kind of stuff while I am gone. But I'm also trying to record additional demos so that even though I have, I will have taught it, this will let them go back and rewatch, because most of the time students don't learn just from getting exposed to something once, right? So I often try and have like step-by-step photos that show like the process that I did and a demo video if I can, because some students learn better from videos, some from reading stuff, some from pictures. So I try and get it just all available for them. So whatever version they learn from the best is there for them. So yesterday I was trying to record the video, but the last 2 days, but I only have one prep every other day. So I don't get as much done as I would like because it's just time consuming. And so I was doing this demo for painting and I just had it pointed down. So I was painting while working with my students because I can just like speed up the time on the video or edit stuff out. And I always take out the audio. So none of the audio of my students talking to me is going to be in the demo video that I give. But I was laughing because I was reviewing the videos and I was like, this is a really good example of what a day-to-day is when I am not quote unquote busy, because there is not a second that I am left alone. Like it's question after question. Like, look at this. How do you do this? Where is this? I've had some of these students I've had 4 years. Like this is my 3rd year with some of these students because the classes ranged from my Ceramics 1 students to kids that I've only just had to students that I've had, they're in my advanced AB class and they're like, hey, where is this thing? I'm like, same place it's always been, man. Top drawer of these drawers right in front of me, or like, hey, Boyles, what do you think of this texture? Oh, I really like this texture. You were going for this feel? And they're like, yeah, I was. Okay. They're like, what do you suggest for this? I'm like, okay. And so I'm like doing critiques and I'm answering questions and all this kind of stuff. And I remember thinking like, oh, it's such a chill day. I'm glad I was able to like get some of the demo done while I was, working with the students. But like listening back to the video, I was like, I think people would have a panic attack sometimes if they had the jobs that we had, because it was just like question after question and critique after critique and interruption after interruption. And so I just thought I like laughed a little bit. But that's what I was doing this week. That was my week. Just like laughing about how like crazy my job is. I do love it though. So, I mean, clearly I'm either trained myself for it or I was built for it or a little bit of both. That's what having 2 brothers helps you do. Like get really good at readjusting and handling distractions.
I think that's really cool. I'm glad that you had that experience because I think that it's really healthy to step back sometimes and realize, hey, I'm really good at what I do.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even think of it as like I'm really good at what I do. It was like, oh, I still love what I do even when it's so complex and I feel confident in it. So I guess that is,
well, I guess
I'm good at it.
I mean, the takeaway that I had was that probably if I watched the video, I would have a panic attack about like trying to imagine living up to all the demands on your time. Mm-hmm. But you handled it. Yeah. Right? That means you're good at what you do.
Oh, well, thank you. So yeah, that was my one cry and a lot of success. That's my week.
It's a good week on balance.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I don't have anything.
What?
Mm-hmm. I guess I will just share that I made my New Year's resolution to
be less chaotic.
To not slow this podcast down. That was what happened this week. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to talk about what happened this week at all. We're just going to move forward to the future.
Do you want to talk about Lady Gaga's new song?
She has a new song?
Yeah. The Dead Dance.
Is it political?
No, I don't think so.
Then then he's uninterested.
It was my third option for the week check-in.
Brayden's offering you his week check-in because he had so many spare.
He's like, listen, you want to talk about?
That's amazing.
I have not listened to Lady Gaga's new song.
It's good. I like it. Yeah, it feels a lot like her art pop album, which is by far and away my favorite Lady Gaga album.
Well,
Lady
good
Gaga
news is you know that she's not AI.
That's true. She's a real
She's a
person.
safe. Yeah.
There's that amazing SNL thing about Lord Gaga. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's so good. I love it so much.
We'll have to show you later.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's so funny.
But we can't now because no editing and no shenanigans.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to share, I guess, one thing.
Spoiler, I did have to do a lot of editing. And now back to the pod. Wise facts, all I'm going to have to cut. Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Okay, I had one thought. Here's my one thought. My one real thought.
Oh.
Okay. Which is, your thing about the music is interesting because for me, I think the most disrupting thing about AI is that it reveals how not special we are. Like, this is something that I have, like, a genuine fear of, which is funny, is that, like, what if there is nothing special about me and a statistical model could replicate all of what I think are incisive and interesting thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then whenever I write a blog post, not whenever, but sometimes I'll write a blog post and I'll go, AI, write a blog post about the same thing. Or I'll say, hey, could you look at this blog post and recommend some improvements? And the improvements always suck. And I go, yes, I'm still better than the statistical model. So it is. So yes, it does lack soul. But I think as it gets, I don't know if it's going to get significantly better. Right? Mm-hmm. They've kind of reached this plateau with the current thing, and all this stuff about AGI is really like they need an entirely new architecture. But yeah, I think the biggest concern is that people will be like, oh, what good are we if all we are and all we can create is easily replicable by an NVIDIA graphics card.
Which is funny because I feel like that has been a theme that has been in books and sci-fi and stuff for a long time. Like the idea of like what makes mankind special and like how robots could like take over or do a better job. I mean, we've got Skynet. The Butlerian Jihad is all about that in Dune, if you read any of those prequels. Like, just so many themes of that. I feel like it's always been a concern that mankind has had.
Yeah.
No matter what the level of technology is.
That we're not actually special.
Yeah, we really, really want to be special. I mean, that's part of why religious people back in the day really hated science. Is we were saying we weren't the center of the universe. And the church was like, excuse me, we are, but we're also nothing. But we are.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, that's something that has been a concern of mankind since mankind could have concerns.
True.
I think AI is like a magician. It's dazzling, but it's fraudulent. Like what's behind it, you know? I definitely think you're much more special than an AI.
This became a really beautiful moment.
Yeah.
I have the two best brothers.
How you worked it back in?
Yeah, I did.
Anyway, that one can stay in, right?
Yeah.
That week update.
Yes.
For our listeners, I made a different week update that was too politically charged.
I had to cut it.
For the mainstream.
He gets one freebie, and I still get to keep my goal of not editing the pod.
All right.
So, with that goal in mind, let's get back to the subject at hand, which is the tattoos.
How long have we been going?
31 minutes.
All right, pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Okay, so last time we ended, we talked about the Edo period style tattoos, how tattooing was sort of becoming a more regulated thing, and then they started having bans in tattoos and outlawing tattoos and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit because before I get into how the Yakuza kind of took tattoos in to their ranks as an important integral part of their systems, like where the Yakuza sort of started appearing in history, which is a little bit foggy because it is hard to say exactly where their origins come from. It's often referred back, and this includes like if you are asking Yakuza members. I read a few books and watched some documentaries where they like are actually interviewing Yakuza members. So some of this information is coming from like modern Yakuza interviews, as well as like historical references and that kind of stuff. But Yakuza members themselves will talk about their connections to that like Edo period samurai culture. And so as we had said before, the samurai during this Edo period were no longer having, the typical jobs that they had to do. So many became like merchants and scholars or whatever.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to interject. I'm sorry.
Listen, here's the key. If you want to interject, you lean towards the microphone and raise your eyebrows.
Yeah,
and then she
and
looks
then-
over and goes, oh, okay.
I
You
see.
had something to say?
Oh, so you introduced us to the idea that the samurai were less than
Perfect.
yeah. Like these honorable people or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when I watched Princess Mononoke the other day with my daughter,
Yeah.
there's a part where someone makes a comment, samurai thugs, because the samurais are like bad guys in that movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
I get it.
I do. Maybe this is set in like the Edo period. Or
Yeah. I think it is. I think that because they have like iron and they're bringing in a lot of Western ideas.
Yeah.
This edit is completely my fault. It's the late Muromachi period of Japan, not the Edo period of Japan that Princess Mononoke is set. Okay, thanks.
The more you know, Kelly.
Yeah, you're learning things. This is so fantastic.
And it only took 30 episodes
yeah,
of the podcast.
for you to take it with you. Exactly right. They had a lot of samurai that took on honorable merchants, scholars, normal jobs, but there was also quite a few that became these like quote unquote samurai thugs. And they wanted to have a lifestyle that more closely resembled the lifestyle that they had being samurais, which is, much more combative.
Like, for good? Or they just they just wanted to get in fights?
So I think that generally the ones that wanted to continue fighting were not the good guys.
Yeah.
Because the ones that were like understood sort of those principles and ideals that the samurai held to, understood that it wasn't about fighting, but it was more about defending and protecting, and they could do that in ways that was beneficial, like getting actual productive jobs would be my guess.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So
I love the idea of a samurai meeting, and they're just like, we must defend. He's like, I would want to get in a fight. We haven't had a good fight in a while. And he's like, Jim, that's not what we're about, okay? We only fight if there's a good reason to fight. And he's like, no, samurais are about fighting. We got these big swords, man.
it's like one
Let
of the
me
main
free.
things.
I'm an ostrich. You
You
gotta
gotta
let
let me fly, Chief. I think
Is
it's
it
a
ostrich?
peacock.
It's a peacock. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I'm a peacock. You gotta let me fly.
Yeah.
It's a quote from the other guys.
Yeah, it's a line I absolutely adore. So these groups, so again, we talked about like the Otokodate last time. So this is sort of another angle of a very similar group. So these groups were often called Ronin, which is a name that I feel like you guys are familiar with, at least if you played Ghost of Tsushima for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Well, it
a
was more than
samurai
5
with no master.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
A
Samurai.
strong class.
Yeah.
In
In,
In
one
what
of
game?
the Souls
No,
one of the
in,
Souls games.
it's a class in
Ghost of Tsushima? Tsushima.
Tsushima. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's stuck in my mouth.
From multiplayer?
Yeah, the multiplayer
Oh,
had different
right. I forgot
classes,
about
and
that.
Ronin was one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Ronin
fun.
was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was a fun multiplayer.
I liked it a lot.
was a beautiful game.
Let's forget the rest of this and talk about Ghost of Tsushima.
No editing, guys.
Sorry.
Back on track. So these Ronin, they had different groups within them known as Hatamoto Yako, which means bannermen. And they were also given the nickname of kabukimono, which meant crazy ones.
Wait, does kabuki theater mean crazy theater?
I think it might. I didn't Google it because it was very late when I was doing this research. And so I was like, stay on task, stay on target. That's where I was at. But Josh can Google it right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go. Well, I'm not going to Google it. I'm going to Kaggy it.
Yeah, he's going to Kaggy it right now. Do you ever go, hey, Kaggy?
You've got like a new AI every week.
This is just a search engine. Did you know that?
Kaggy? I didn't.
I kind of like how it sounds.
They do have an AI thing. This is now sponsored segment from Kaggy. Okay.
It's not sponsored, though.
Is a paid search engine. So I pay $10 a month.
Okay.
To use that instead of Google, and the results are way better. And also they don't sell all of my personal information. So it's as little as $5 a month. I think I actually pay more than that because I pay for a couples one with Michaela. But
oftentimes when you do things like this, I think I should probably do that if the cybersecurity guy is doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, honestly, it's just I'm not going to get into a big Kaggy sidebar, but I like Kaggy. Google it. Or I did not realize. Yes, Google Kaggy. And then replace Google with Kaggy. It's the perfect plan.
All right.
Oh, that's beautiful. Google comes home late at night and is like, wait, who is this on your phone? Anyways, so Josh will tell us in a minute if kabuki theater means crazy, but these kabukimono were known for wearing like outlandish colors and patterns on their kimono. They had really long swords for some reason. And sometimes they even wore women's kimonos. So they just were like crazy ones, I guess. And they were known for other very violent practices.
A real Caravaggio.
Oh, got him. All right, I'm ready with kabuki, by the way.
Okay.
This definitely won't need any editing.
No.
We are on top of things. So kabuki doesn't necessarily mean crazy, but it typically means characterized more by showmanship than by substance.
Oh, so there you go.
So It implies a sense of being bizarre or overly dramatic, which could be interpreted as crazy.
I like that. I like that a whole lot.
That's interesting.
So there we go.
Thanks, Kaggy.
So anyways, they, like I said, they were very violent and they often employed a lot of intimidation factors. And they were known for a practice called tsuchigiri, which I think if you've watched anime, you've heard of it. This is known as crossroad killings, where they would just randomly murder some peasant in the road for whatever reason they wanted. And then when asked why, they would tell people it was to test the sharpness of their blade, which I think happens in a few animes that I've seen.
Interesting.
Yeah, but there's historical, they did that.
It really does seem like there was a meeting and one guy was like, I just want to test the sharpness of my blade, man.
Yeah.
Let me out there.
Cut me loose. Yeah, he really was. Jeff, or whatever his name was. Jim
Jim the samurai.
And that's
Jim
another
the
reason why they're
samurai.
like, get out of here.
It was just an American who snuck in and was like, I heard about you samurai.
I know you like violence.
I brought my own sword. It's called a gun.
Exactly. Yeah, so it was behavior like this that kind of made them known for their like combative and violent nature, but it also attracted combative and violent people.
So other people saw somebody murdered in the street and said,
and they were like, that's my guy.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That seems like fun.
Like literally it is something that I'm like, how do these people find each other? Because there can't be that many people out there like that. Like there's serial killers where they get like a buddy, like they have a buddy, and when you're reading about them, they're like, the first serial killer like killed a couple people and then this other guy joined and they start killing people together, and you're like, how did they breach this conversation that they were like, so what do you feel about the serial killers going on, those murders? Oh, you're into it? Have I got a story for you? Like how, like it just blows my mind. But I guess they find each other somehow, and they became these larger groups.
Love finds a way.
And so does evil, apparently. So anyways, these groups still tried to do benevolent things. So
The ones who are killing people
up.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like justification, I guess, right? So before we talked about the Otokodate, right? And so this the Batmans, yeah. So this group, the Machiyako, they were similar to the Otokodate in that they became defenders of the common man, or they, tend to do that. And the subset, the Machiyako, I think were not always people that participated in those crossroad killings, because that was the Kabuki Mono.
Oh my gosh.
It's so many groups.
Whatever.
So here's the explanation, and it's very difficult and convoluted, but it's the best that I could do. So it's so many subsets of groups within other groups, and I think that it was not as unified because not everything was as unified, so different groups broke off into different things. And so you have the Ronin at the top, and then below that it's broken up into the Hatamoto Yako, which are these bannermen, which also is then broken up into the like crazy ones and then the not so crazy ones. And then some would then join these other groups that were the Machiyako, who would try and do good things, but they were still violent and still part of these Ronin groups.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so last time we were talking about there can't be viewers and they could be watching their phones, right?
Yeah, just like staring.
You watch it. If you listen to this podcast on Spotify, it transcribes it and has the words on the screen. And I didn't realize that until this last episode. And you're like spouting off all these Japanese words, and they're on the screen. And I'm like, how accurate is this? Like, just all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. Like, the transcription was like pretty on point. I can really only think of one error I saw while I was watching.
What was that?
You said 1603, and which was a year, but it did 16 space 0 space 3. But it got like other years you said
correct
just fine. Yeah.
I thought it would be like whenever I'm bashing on AIs, the transcription would be like
garbled nonsense.
AIs are fantastic. I think you should use AI for everything.
Yeah, just like that. Okay, so back to the Machiyako, who were a subset of this Ronin group.
Yes.
And Machiyako actually translates to town servants. So they were different from the Otokodate in that they were made up of what was quoted as honest commoners and sometimes Ronin. So it's a subset of Ronin and commoners. And they were also thought of as a Robin Hood type group, but they had actually a less of a propensity. Well, I struggle with that word. They had less of a propensity towards violence than the other aforementioned groups. So they actually, I don't think they were ones that participated in the like crossroad killings. That was more of the like Kabuki Mono groups. And so all that to say that oftentimes there are Yakuza that claim that this is the specific group that they more likely descended from.
Okay.
So they're claiming, connection to this Machiyako group, which was, they had Ronin or samurai and commoners that were less violent and had greater propensity towards helping the common man than other groups.
So the Yakuza have a Robin Hood heritage. That's
what they say, yes. Yeah. And there's no, like, the thing about it is it's such, like, hazy, foggy history that there's no way that you can say that that is or isn't true. Okay. And a lot of them have, that's very firmly in their like, gang's genetic makeup, that idea, because you'll see a lot of those same like things that the samurai and that these groups held as important, like honor and family and obedience and that kind of stuff, loyalty, is also very important to the Yakuza. So yeah. And again, it's also impossible to say one way or the other because these groups were more or less entirely eradicated by the government towards the end of the 17th century. So there's no like unbroken line of them from them to now as far as like a firm established group. But as time goes forward, we get towards the mid 18th century where two new main groups emerge. And this is the Tekiya, which means the peddlers, and the Bakuto, or Bakuto, I think. The Bakuto meaning gamblers. And these groups are often made up of like destitute people. They didn't have money, seemingly no future. They didn't have connections. And so recruiting into these groups was incredibly simple because they wanted a better life. And so, those opportunities presented themselves within these groups for these people that didn't have funds or, opportunities and that kind of stuff. And this is where we see a more clear line of the like kind of Yakuza ancestry. And the Yakuza still, like peddling, markets, gambling, that kind of stuff, are all still very important business practices to the Yakuza for modern day. And these groups are also where the Yakuza gets their name. Have you heard where the Yakuza got their name? Because I hadn't before.
I haven't.
Nope.
So here's where it comes from. Back in the day, there was a traditional card game that was used often in gambling, and it was called Ochiokabu. And they used Hanafuda cards. Sometimes they used Hanafuda cards in multiple readings, like in different books and documentaries and reading in various places. Hanafuda was referred to specifically, so I think it was those cards that were used in this game.
What are Hanafuda cards?
So the difference is that the Hanafuda cards have more like suits than typical cards do. And they're also adorned with like flowers and different, very specific types of drawings that other cards are not. And that was kind of the main difference that I saw with the Hanafuda cards versus like typical Oicho Kabu cards or, Western style cards. And this game that they get their name from is a gambling game, and it's very similar to like 21, where you're trying to get a sum of 21 from your cards. So what they were trying to add up to specifically was 9. And if you get cards that equal 10 or 20, then it's a 0. And it's the worst hand. And so statistically, or not statistically, but supposedly the absolute worst hand you could get was the cards 8, 9, and 3, which add up to 20, which is 0. And those aren't back in ancient Japanese, if you say those numbers, 8 is ya, 9 is ka, and 3 is za. And so the term Yakuza came from these 3 numbers and was originally a term that they used in a negative way to like associate with something that was worthless or like no good. And then they started referring to it as like criminals and social outcasts. And then that became the name.
But it literally is being dealt a bad hand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. And which I think is so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea. Though, to be honest, I had never bothered really researching the Yakuza much before. So there's that. So yeah, there are similarities with these older groups and how many of the Yakuza members are recruited and how the Yakuza members are recruited now. Similar to being a Delta bad hand back in the day. A lot of more current Yakuza members are also from that like destitute, less fortunate group. And do you remember last time how I talked about how the fact that these like intricate tattoos became more expensive, became kind of an important part of the Yakuza? So in one of the books I was reading, one of the Yakuza people that they were interviewing talked about how a lot of times these like younger people want to get these intricate tattoos, but they're incredibly expensive. And you have to have the right connections to get a Yakuza tattoo. You can't just walk in and get one. And so the Yakuza would recruit them and front the bill, and then they would pay back the Yakuza by being a member and working for them for a while until they found their own membership within the I almost called it a club. Within the club. Within the gang.
Kind of a chicken and egg situation there.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're like, I really want those Yakuza tattoos. Well, there's only one way to get them.
To be a Yakuza.
Join the Yakuza.
Yeah.
And then you get them for free. Well, not really for free.
Kind
you have
of.
to be a Yakuza.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I wanted.
It's a win-win or lose-lose. Anyways, and so they would, like incur this debt, and then they would join this family-like structure that the Yakuza really has as their main hierarchy. So they generally have like a father that kind of is in charge and who everybody goes to, and then they have these quote-unquote children roles beneath where they send the children out to go do various jobs, but the father runs the system.
Is it actual family, kind of like the Italian mafia?
No. So when they get accepted into the Yakuza is when they become part of the Yakuza family.
Okay.
And so actually, oftentimes, family members are not part of the Yakuza. I was reading about this. It was really interesting because one of the gentlemen that was interviewed was talking about his wife and daughter, and there's no women in the Yakuza, more or less. There's a very few instances where there are women actually that are members of the Yakuza, but most Yakuza have families, but they don't, a lot of them don't have their kids join and don't want their kids to join. And so keep it very separate. So it's like a whole different family. However, they also explain that between the Yakuza family and between their, like wife and kids family, they will always choose the Yakuza family. So it is like loyalty and obedience to the Yakuza family is incredibly important to them.
Is there, does it talk at all about how, so the Yakuza family is the most important, but are these other families, they talk about family being important and loyalty. What about, like, does the Yakuza protect the families of their members?
Yeah. Like they absolutely protect. And I wonder if that's part of why they don't have their families join, because there's a lot of illegal things, and instead they're trying to create a better life for the family in a more legitimate way. But it is something where they often protect each other a lot. And this is like such a bizarre thing. And I didn't write down the name of this process in Japanese because I was like, I won't talk about this for sure, but now I'm going to talk about it. They do this like ritual thing where they cut off portions of their finger generally to apologize for if they've done something wrong. And so they will like cut off a portion of their finger and give it to the father as a gift. And if he accepts the finger, then he's forgiven you. And what it's meant to represent is a further need for you to depend on the family for protection and for power, because historically you would cut off a finger and it would mean that you couldn't wield your sword as effectively. And so now you had to further rely on and depend on the family for all of your protection and your needs. And so further integrating that. And that was something that they saw as a positive because they wanted that. They wanted you to be, more invested in the family protection and that kind of stuff. So I definitely think protection was a huge part of things. Yeah. And then the Yakuza, so as they continued to grow as a system, they started to see that making connections with the government would actually be beneficial to them. And so they, in exchange for these connections with the government and having, like police or whoever look the other way, they would in turn offer what they had, which was their power and their physical violence that they could enact. And so they would break up like civil unrest among laborers so that the government didn't have to. And the government members would then, look away from the crimes that the Yakuza were doing. And it was sort of like a symbiotic relationship a little bit. And so then...
So, I mean, at that point, they have moved far from their Robin Hood origins.
Yes. Almost entirely, but not entirely. I'll talk a little bit here at the end, towards the end, about some of the stuff that they still hold to that sort of Robin Hood mentality, but they very much so like leaned into the more criminal side of things. Because most of their, like, sometimes they will have legitimate businesses so that they can cover for their illegitimate businesses. So it's a very like mixed gray area that they're living in. And so then I was, looking into the connection, like this is kind of how they're getting their origins and how they're connecting, but how are tattoos, or why are tattoos so important to them? And also, I haven't been using this word, but this is the word that they prefer for tattoos, is Irezumi, which I think means inserting ink. I didn't write it down here, but that's the preferred term. And so I back and forth I use this term in my notes here on out. So if I say Irezumi, it's tattooing, or if I say tattooing, obviously it's tattooing. Back, like rolling back again for a minute, these tattoos were important for large groups of people because oftentimes we talked about those Edo period punishment tattoos where we'd have the bars on their arms and marks and stuff. And so a lot of criminals would get these big, heavy, elaborate tattoos to cover up those Edo punishment tattoos, which is another reason why those tattoos didn't function super well, because you could just cover them up with these big tattoos. And that's what these groups started doing. And so, though, again, there's no direct connection to that, has like, there's this historical idea that tattoo was used for that. And additionally, the tattoos, I don't remember what I was going to say there, so I'm just going to move on. And since I'm already editing things out, I get to edit that out too.
Nope, it's got to stay.
It doesn't seem like using it as a cover up is much of a, like, it doesn't. I don't understand the reason, I guess, because if you cover up a criminal tattoo with a big elaborate tattoo, I mean, it's still a big elaborate tattoo on you. You still have this, like, reputation or whatever. Like, people see it and will think criminal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two parts to that, right? So, yeah, they're still definitely doing that. But I imagine if there is an amount of cover-up, then they can no longer be ousted as banished from locations. So now they can go back into locations again. And potentially get, like, jobs. I mean, maybe they could be firefighters.
Smoke jumpers.
Smoke jumpers. Where before, if they had those criminal tattoos, they possibly could not.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe they would get those. Maybe someone had a lame crime, like littering, and they put a little tattoo. He's like, cover it up. And they're like, you don't need to be ashamed. He's like, no, I want people to fear me. And then he'd cover up with a big tattoo, and they're like, oh, you must be a criminal. He's like, yeah, I am. I'm a super bad criminal.
Yeah. You better watch out.
I don't know. I just like think about when I was little. Tattoos weren't as socially acceptable as they are now, and so it didn't really matter what you had tattooed, but if you had some tattoos, like, you were a bad man. Like, careful around that guy or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know, these,
like, they still held that connotation no matter what.
Yeah. Like, you're not getting away from necessarily the criminal reputation. It's maybe not clear what you did, but you're a bad man.
Which I think they liked, right? Because they wanted it for the intimidation factor anyways. Yeah. And so perhaps some of the foundation came from this idea that it was covering up these other past sins, so to speak. So, but in modern times, a lot of it is that these elaborate tattoos are an indication of your dedication to the family, to the Yakuza, your commitment because they're expensive and they're painful, but it is also an indication of your own personal beliefs and your personal, what is that? Like things that are important to you.
Your values?
Your values. Yeah. Within the tattooing of within those Yakuza tattoos, like all of that story is kind of told. A lot of these traditional styles were fairly regulated in the way it was done. So there was typically a black and gray background motif that was usually shadows, clouds, waves, water, mountains, or thunder, stuff like that. And it was usually done in those shades of gray or black. And they would tattoo the upper arms, covering the shoulders and the back, and they would go into the front of the chest, but they would leave that portion in the middle open so that the tattoo would not be revealed from the kimono, because that kimono has that opening.
I thought it was leaving a place for the severed head of your love.
No, that could be elsewhere. And the little peach.
Yeah.
And a lot of these motifs, so on top of these motifs, like, you know, you'd have these darker black and gray shades in the background, but on top of those would be these motifs that generally had historical lore, legend, myths. There was gods that were sometimes portrayed as demons, carp or koi, dragons, spirits, tengu, and yokai, which do you guys know what tengu and the difference between tengu and yokai?
No.
So tengu is very specific in that they're these supernatural beings that typically have avian features. And I think they're some of the most common recognizable. They're the ones with the big red face and the really long nose, which is often very phallic, the nose is. And these yokai range from being just simply mischievous to outright malevolent. So those are included in the themes. And so naturally this gave rise to a more like intimate, secretive, and protected relationship between the Yakuza members and the Irezumi Masters who were providing the service of the tattoos. And so these Irezumi Masters, the tattoo artists, developed into their sort of own family structure that was very similar to the Yakuza in that they had that family structure. And also similar to the Yakuza, they were a group that was not accepted by the government, and a lot of their stuff had to be kept secret because it was still seen as very criminal. And they also would make specific connections with specific groups of Yakuza that they would work with. And so a modern Irezumi master, his name was Horimitsu, he said about the tattoos, it's not about the price, it's about getting a feeling of whatever someone would actually like to have an Irezumi. For example, if a customer wishes to have a specific Irezumi on his body, I, as the Irezumi master, can tell him that it's better to have this one. It suits your personality better. So you see, I offer advice. Sometimes people come with suggestions that are nonsense. I would never make an Irezumi of that. They have to go elsewhere. If you don't have the time or the heart for an Irezumi, you shouldn't get one. I used to do my tattoos only by hand, but nowadays I use a gun, the tattoo gun. When it comes to the design, if the person hasn't decided what they want but have a story, I will drop a design that captures that story. So the Irezumi of the Yakuza is a encompassing story of who that person is. And they all universally say that there is like a spirit to the Irezumi. Like you don't go in there just to get something cool because you're like, tigers look cool, man. But it has to fit your personality and who you are.
Just like Maui.
Yes.
From Moana. Have you seen Moana?
I have. Yeah.
His tattoo, he gets more tattoos as he does things.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That relate to his things.
They're animated.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Maui is a member of the Yakuza.
Probably not. But I mean, it is similar in that Yakuza would continue to get more tattoos as they continued in their career in the Yakuza.
That would be funny if you are like, you have to decide how big to make that initial tattoo because you're like, listen, have I done the best that I'm going to do? Or have I got like a lot of fantastic stuff ahead of me? Because it would suck if you fill up your whole body and then you
like,
do something amazing, like assassinate an emperor. And you're like, where am I? And so you've got to put it like on your cheek, like this guy assassinated an emperor because you're all out of room.
And well, I mean, and that's why the Yakuza Masters were so important. Because they could tell you not to do that.
Like you stick up a gas station and you've got this giant thing of a 7-Eleven on your chest with you going, shooting guns in the air.
The Irezumi Master would look at you and go, that is absolute nonsense and I will not do that tattoo. Yeah, so also the Irezumi Master explained that traditional Irezumi has meaning that in modern times some would associate with fashion, and so he would never do a tattoo for that reason. So no 7-Eleven tattoos or no fashion tattoos. He said that people must be in it for the whole spiritual experience. Also, depending on your position in the Yakuza, the themes or depictions, some of them you weren't allowed to get, or you had to like change what you wanted to get based on that. So a lot of times they start out with smaller tattoos and work their way into these larger tattoos. So they wouldn't start out with a huge 7-Eleven. They would work their way to something big. Then many Yakuza, as they continue their career, would add to their tattoos, eventually covering over their whole body.
It's like Boy Scout patches.
Yeah. Yakuza patches.
Yep. I got my wilderness survival.
I got my
tattoo right there.
You know what? Boy Scouts would have hit different if the merit badges were tattoos.
Right. Very true. So there's one example they used was a young subordinate. He came to join the Yakuza, but he was, based on interviews with the Irezumi Master, he was very ambitious and had a lot of intentions to rise through the ranks. And so his tattoo was a koi swimming upstream to show that he was willing to put in the battle to make it to the top. And so a lot of these, dragons represented certain things, different themes in the way that they're presented showed different things. And so depending on what the Irezumi Master would put on there and what you were asking for, it was like a complex story of your current position, your future positions, your ambition, your story, and the type of person that you were is all entwined in this complex tattoo that you're receiving. And so this was something that became, really important to the Yakuza, because not only was it a show of dedication, but it was a show of these values that they had, continuing over the years. And so again, like I said before, they still viewed themselves as this sort of Robin Hood background. And in modern times, there has been instances where they have been connected to what I would say is quote unquote good deeds. And I use quote unquote because they're always getting something out of it. Mm-hmm. So it's never, there's always a little bit, in it for them. One of the biggest ones that I found while researching was in 1946. There was something called the Shibuya event, not to be confused with the Shibuya event in Jujutsu Kaisen, the anime.
I was getting confused.
I know you were. It was actually a little bit frustrating because I was like researching it and they're like, in Jujutsu Kaisen, this happened. And I was like, no, I want the real life one, not the one from the anime. But shortly after World War II, there was a lot of like black market turf wars that broke out in the Shibuya district of Tokyo. And so there was a Taiwanese gang known as the Shanghai faction. And that clashed with the Tosei Kai, which was a Japanese street gang that later evolved into a formal Yakuza group. And the fighting escalated and became a shootout with the Shibuya police station. And so the Japanese police force was weakened by, all of these shootouts and by the war, also by the American occupation forces that were there. And so they sort of turned to these criminal counterparts, the Yakuza, and the police temporarily deputized them. And they essentially, using their great capabilities for violence, clashed with that Taiwanese syndicate. And so these Japanese gangs, these early versions of Yakuza and various versions of Yakuza, aided the police and were able to regain control. And that Yakuza collaboration was something where they, quashed quite a bit of rebellion and saved quite a few lives. But their other motive was that they were able to kind of take over this black market system that was now in place. And then before the 2000s, so after the early 2000s, there was a big crackdown on police collaboration with Yakuza. But before then, the Yakuza were known for taking care of minor infractions that took place in their Yakuza controlled areas, so the police didn't have to. And so it made it easier for police to maintain social order without overextending. And the Yakuza's benefit to that was the police would then, tip them off when they were going to come and do like a raid, quote unquote. And so the Yakuza could hide any important evidence that they needed to. And so they wouldn't be prosecuted for all the various crimes that they were committing. And they also did quite a bit in the form of responding to like disaster relief. There was multiple times where they talked about how the Yakuza actually responded more rapidly and more efficiently than the police forces did in certain areas, and were able to mobilize and save quite a few lives during some major disasters. So we sort of see how they still feel this real connection to their, ancestral sort of servants of the people, but also very heavily into crime, and how truthfully the tattoos for the Yakuza is like the printed version of the soul of who they are as members, and that I think is why not only it's so important, but it's why it's continued to be so important, because as we spoke at the beginning, the soul of humanity is kind of the important part. That's what makes us special and stand out. And I think for the Yakuza, that is a super important aspect. And also it's important that they display that while also, cementing their commitment to the Yakuza. So there we go. Ba, 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 ba.
Wow.
Excellent.
We made it. 0 edits.
I do think it's kind of funny. I was thinking about when we talked about The Godfather, and the Mafia's also had in World War II, for example, they guarded some shipyards and stuff like that from saboteurs or whatever, right? Like people that are members of criminal organizations also are members of the broader society, and they want to pitch in and help, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. And it's funny, the Yakuza, the name meaning being about people who are dealt a bad hand.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people enter into criminal pursuits because they feel like they don't have a choice, because they feel like they were dealt a bad hand, and that's the only way to get ahead in this life, right? And in some cases, some very limited cases, they're kind of right, you know?
Well, I think there's this idea of like gray area is something that we have in every culture, in every society, in true history and in fiction that we carry with us as people, right? Because like we've referred to them as Robin Hood like characters, but Robin Hood was an outlaw. He technically committed crimes, even though a lot of those crimes were not real. It was a corrupt king. He was still labeled a criminal. And so, having this idea that you can be both, that both can be true, that you can be a criminal and you can still do good, I think is this really complex theme that we as humans who are complex, and I think also see ourselves as so fallible, but with such a desire to do good, that these themes and these types of behaviors like hit, you know, somewhere deep in our souls a little bit.
I got a question for you, Brandon. Mm-hmm. If you were getting Yakuza tattoos, remember the center has got to be clean, right?
Yeah.
And everything in the center. So what's going over your chest on the left side and what's going over your chest on the right side?
Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, I need to talk to the master and like figure out what I want my tattoo to say about me.
It was a test, and that was the correct answer.
Kelly, as the closest we have to Izumi, what is it called?
Irezumi Master, yeah.
Izumi Master. What would you put on Brandon?
Oh, man. I feel like I want to think about this, and I don't want to offend any actually Irezumi Masters, because I obviously don't know anything about anything, and the symbolism I did look up some and not a lot, but I'm going just on feel. I feel like Brandon would have a lot of like cloud motifs for his background symbolism. And I think that he would probably have, so I could see like, some sort of mythological creature in the back, like a yokai sort of creature in the back. 'Cause I think that there is an amount of, like mischievousness to Brandon, but it's generally all in like positive ways. And I think that there might be koi somewhere, because I think that Brandon is always trying to work and not give up, even when it feels like an uphill battle. You know, like the koi going up the waterfall, because he's not what I would call somebody that's like overly ambitious as far as like, I gotta get money, I gotta do this. But he is somebody that like, when he says something, he's going to make sure that it happens. And it does not matter how hard it is, he is going to accomplish it. And so I feel like these are some things that, you know, Brandon would maybe have as themes.
Boy, I bet you wish she answered that question about you. That felt very nice.
No, I've got my answer. I don't need to ask her. Listen, let me provide some notes, okay?
Josh is going to have a severed head, 12 peaches.
The Gryffindor seal.
No, obviously.
You got a Tengu mask. The biggest nose possible.
Okay. No, here's what I'm going. All right?
Okay.
So, the right side is going to be a 7-Eleven that I knocked over as a child, obviously. Yeah. The left side, I'm keeping blank for when I eventually make the world's greatest selling rock album.
Yeah, there you go.
Where are you putting Michaela's severed head?
The severed head. I'm breaking rules. It goes
Tramp
right
stamp.
in the middle. Tramp stamp. She would really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm gonna get. Okay, I thought yours was great and mine was stupid. Good job.
What is the symbolism of the cloud motif?
I don't know for sure, but it just felt right of the things they listed, right? Because I feel like that you are somebody that is to the general masses
An enigma.
No, like you're very like shrouded. You don't like, if people don't know you, then there's a lot of you that they don't see. And so there's a lot of you that is kind of behind this quote unquote cloud cover that I think is much more complex, that a lot of people miss out on. And so you are sort of this shrouded person, but as people get to know you, there's a lot of really deep, complex things that make you such like a fierce, loyal advocate and friend, but it's not something that everybody gets to see. And so cloud cover just felt right. I don't know what it means.
Okay. I thought it was just because you grew up in Oregon. Yeah, like clouds.
Clouds, Josh.
It's foggy.
If I like, Josh didn't ask about Josh, but I feel like for his background, it would
No, I already said mine.
You didn't say background.
Waves. I would do waves for you.
Waves for me because I'm so turbulent.
That's not at all what I thought.
The waves are powerful.
Yeah. But they're also absolutely the most polite power there is at times. Because, right, like an entire mountain is a really strong thing, but eventually it is worn down by waves. But they don't make a big show of it. They just continue to be strong and stalwart.
It's a good one.
Oh, man.
It's reminiscent of my favorite Portuguese phrase.
All right.
Phrase. You ready?
Yeah.
Now I can't remember. Okay.
Like balls something.
No. Agua
That's a good
molia. Pedro dura. Tant bacha te que fura. Something like that. It means water's soft and rocks are hard, but it hits it enough that it makes a hole in it. That's what it literally translates to.
Yeah, there you go. So...
But I just absolutely mangled that. So I apologize to any Portuguese speakers that may listen.
I think there probably are some. All right. That was a wild ride, but we made it. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Remember, it's going to be a while before our next episode because I'm going to be gone for almost a month.
I think when you're back, our first episode should just be like a travelogue. Like you should tell us what you
Yeah.
What she wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Answer letters and
I thought we were going to
travelogue.
do...
Letters and travel.
And travelogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Apparently, I only remembered the letter part. I'm more excited for the travelogue. I think we should do two. I think we should do full travelogue and then do
full
user.
letters. If we get enough listener mail, then we can do a whole episode that way. And then if people are interested, we can do a whole travelogue. And we all get to hear about where I was and what happened.
I think a travelogue sounds fine. Just, let's plan on that. Let's have the episode start, travelogue, and
then
it
go
goes
from
however
there?
long it goes.
Okay.
And
Fair deal. But thanks for everybody for tuning in. I hope it was enjoyable. And go do some art. Don't do some crime. Bye.
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 Oh my gosh.
So the joke behind all this is Kelly is just going to go, I'm just posting it, and then I am going to get fired.